there was a issue with the mic, so we'll start over again, right? So good evening everyone. This is a session for students who are appearing for CSE 2024. The session is about how to effectively plan for CSE 2024, right? Now, if I look at the students who have who are attending this particular session, we have probably students who have not appeared for mains this year, students who are not appearing for mains this year, students who have taken a break, students who are thinking of starting their preparation, or most of all students who appeared for prelims this year, failed, but could not start their preparation in the last 2 months, last 2 to 3 months, right? So we have already crossed almost 75 days since prelims. The most important question that I ask students who come to meet me is that, what have you done in the last 75 days? What is quantifiable, or what is effectively that you have completed in the last 75 days? And this is a reflection of how they have planned, how they have strategized, or how they have effectively implemented a plan around this. And most students who come to us have vague answers, like they have started with a subject, they have done this and that, and nothing in conclusion, nothing in completion, right? And this makes it very ambiguous. This makes it very difficult for them to have any particular output out of this, and this will continue across the next 3-4 months, and before you know it, it's already November, December. You start panicking, and then you will move into a prelims mode, right? Because assuming we have you have faced challenges in clearing prelims in the previous years. Now, the session is basically going to discuss, we have a particular timeline from August 2023 to May end 2024, which is when the next prelims is happening, and then we have August 2023 to September 20th, which is when the next mains is happening, and there is a timeline within this particular months, and what exactly you have to complete, what you have to prioritize, what you have to give emphasis on. This is the primary purpose of this discussion. Now, if you are attending this session, I think there are 3 extremely important dates for you, right? The first date would be August 11th, which is today, right? How do we start about from now? The second important date is May 26th, which is when the next prelims is happening, and then the third important date is September 10th, right? This is when the next September 20th, when the next mains is happening, right? Now, if you look at between August 11th and May 26th, we have almost 289 days, and this is 9 months and 15 days, roughly 15 or 16 days, right? And this is not a lot of time. Looking at it, it feels like it's a lot of time, but it's not effectively a lot of time, because the target that you have to finish within this given timeline is extremely high, right? Now, between May 26th and September 20th, you have 117 days and you have only 117 days. There are 2 ways of looking at it. You have 117 days, it is a good thing because it's 7-8 days more than what we have this year. You have only 117 days because between prelims and mains next year, when you clear prelims, you have to be positioned yourself to crack the mains examination and to secure a rank. So in this timeline also you have a lot of things to get done. In this timeline also you have a lot of things to get done, right? So cumulatively between now and the next mains, we have 406 days. That's almost 13 months, and we will discuss how we can effectively utilize this particular timeline. Now, if I have to plot this on a particular timeline, right? We have 15 days or 20 days of August, we have September, we have October, we have November, we have December and January, right? Now, this is one phase, and this is an important phase, and this is a phase where we will be looking at how to effectively plan for mains. Now, many of you would have this question that, why should I prepare for mains? I have not cleared prelims twice, thrice. The challenge out here is that when you clear prelims, you should be ready to crack mains, because 117 days is not sufficient for you to crack mains. And unless you are preparing and effectively utilizing these 6 months, you will not be able to crack mains, because your main competition will be the people who are appearing for mains this year. You are aware that there are more than 14,500 or 14,600 people who are appearing for mains this year, right? And take it from me, you will have at least 10,000 of these people coming back and writing prelims with you in 2024. And these are the people who will have higher chances of ranks, these are the people who will have higher chances of clearing prelims. And in this segment, you will also find people who have cracked mains, you would have segments who have appeared for interview, you will have students who have secured ranks, you will have students who have secured even top 100 ranks. Even this year, as we speak, we have, I think in our next IAS mains test series, we have more than 160 rank holders who are repeating. So it is a very competitive crowd, and unless you prepare yourself effectively between now and let's say June 2024, you will have no chance as it. You will just graduate from being a prelims failed student to a mains failed student, and that's not what we are here for. We are here to crack this examination, and this will take effective planning, and this will take a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, and a lot of consistency, right? So between August and January, we have this many months. You have 2 optional papers. Now, I always prefer quantifying things in terms of marks, right? Now, so your 4 previous papers is 250 into 4, which is 1000 marks, right? This is one essay paper, which is 1 into 250. This is 250 marks, right? You have 2 optional papers, 2 into 250, 500 marks, right? So cumulatively, we are looking at 1750 marks of syllabus that has to be covered across the next 6 months, right? Let's assume it's across the next 6 months, considering August, September, October, November, December, January. Now, some of you would want to start your prelims oriented preparation in December, considering the fact that you did not have success in prelims in the last 2 years. Now, even people who have not cleared prelims, there will be different types of people. There will be people who have cleared prelims GS, but they failed in CSAT. There will be students who have cleared CSAT, but who will have failed GS. And there will also be a segment of people who are closer to the cutoff, and there will be a segment of people who are really far away from the cutoff. Now, you know who you are, and you know what kind of challenges you are facing. It is very difficult for you to convince yourself that you have to do all the things that you have done last year again to do to succeed in this examination. And this is very difficult. And the even more difficult part is that you have 13 months to plan. I've always noticed, I keep repeating this, right? Whenever we have more time, it's much more challenging than having less time. Less time, you are at your peak performance, you are doing everything that you can do, you will have a lot of what do you call consistency when you're doing it. But when you have more time to keep yourself motivated on a daily basis, it's extremely challenging, right? So we have to cover 1750 marks, right? Let's keep aside essay as a paper where we will end up writing essay every fortnight or every month. But keeping out of that, we have 1500 marks, right? So we have a combination where we have 5 months. This is if you are starting prelims in January itself or end of December. And we have 6 months if you are stretching this till mains 2024, mains stretching this till January 2024. If you are going for a 5-month approach, we have to cover 300 marks every month, right? I am assuming essay is something that you will write every month or every fortnight. So you have to cover 300 marks worth syllabus every month. Is this difficult? Definitely yes, right? So if you are looking at the composition of marks, right, you have GS1, you have GS2, you have GS3, you have GS4, right? Now, within GS1, you have 3 prominent compositions. You have 75 marks of history, 75 marks of society, and 100 marks of geography, right? Now, if I take GS2, it's 125 marks of polity, 50 marks of IR, what do you call, you have social justice, which accounts for 50 to 75 marks, right? In this, you will also have governance. Social justice plus governance will put together 50 to 75 marks, right? So this is mostly what is the composition of paper 2. In paper 3, you have economy for 50 marks, you have agriculture for 50 marks, you have security for 50 marks, you have science and tech for 50 marks, and you have disaster management plus environment for 50 marks, right? This is the composition of paper 3. In paper 4, you have, I broadly divided into 3 parts. You have core ethics, you have the governance related parts, and you have the case studies, right? This is 125, 130 marks. This will have 70, this will have 50 or 80 and 40, something on those lines. This is the composition. Why I am breaking this into smaller parts and composition is that because when we have to achieve 300 marks every month, this will be a composition of, when you have to achieve 300 marks, this will be a composition of GS plus optional, right? Most likely it will be 200 marks of GS plus 100 marks of optional, right? Now, if you have to cover 300 marks every month, this is basically 75 marks of content every week, right? I'm quantifying it because I want you to follow a schedule or follow a pattern out of this, and this will happen because when you have 200 marks, you have 75 marks to cover. This will again be 50 marks of GS and 25 marks of optional, something around this. If you're going to micromanage this, this is what it eventually comes down to, right? And when you are completing a particular part of the syllabus, now we have to do this into 5 months, right? You also have another composition where if you are not planning for 5 months, if you're planning for 6 months, this comes down to 250 marks per month into 6 months, right? This is another way to go about. Now, I decide that I'm going to start with a particular subject. I always start with PYQ, right? Why is it important to start with PYQs? PYQs are important to understand the pattern of questions that is coming, the relevance of content that you have, whether it is sufficient to write the answers that is coming. It will also help you understand the emphasis on what areas, how much marks. It will also help you understand the trends that is happening. And above all, it will help you understand whether the questions that you are currently solving is aligned with the UPSC pattern, right? Are all the questions similar to what you are writing, aligned with what you are expected to write in mains examination, right? So, always start with PYQs because by the time you write this examination in September 2024, I would want you to have solved at least the last 5 years of PYQs, and this will involve solving PYQs of GS 1, 2, 3 and 4, right? And I always suggest that paper 1 and paper 4 you can go up to 5 years because most of the topics are static in nature and there is not much changes that has happened. But with respect to paper 2 and paper 3, even doing the last 3 years of PYQs is sufficient, right? Now, PYQs will help decide how much time you have to engage in. Now, the other most important aspect is notes and answer writing. If I have to bring down this session into 3 effective components of what has to be done: solving of PYQs, making of notes and practicing sufficient answer writing. We are talking about from now to January or now to December, right? Prelims will come from January, prelims will come from December, as and when you want to start it. Is there a point in having a conversation around prelims till December, till January? Not necessarily. You don't want to be the person who clears prelims and you are not ready to clear mains. I have come across a lot of students over the years who prepared 1 full year on prelims, and then when they are qualified prelims, they are not in a position to put a stake on clearing mains or securing a rank, right? See, essentially you have to understand prelims is a qualifying paper and it will involve getting marks above a particular cutoff, right? Even if you are getting half a mark, 0.25 marks above the cutoff, that is sufficient. In fact, I know people who are in top 50, top 20 ranks who have cleared prelims just 0.25 marks above the cutoff. But that is not the case for mains. In mains, we have to score as much marks as possible. If prelims was an elimination round, mains is a selection round, and interview is what finally decides what service or what rank you get. So, in the selection process of mains, we have to target scores, right? Now, if you look at scores in GS, the average score of a top 100 rank holder is 431 marks, right? In optional, the average score of a top 100 rank holder is 280. In essay, the average score of a top 100 rank holder is 121. In interview, this is 180. Now, this is the magical numbers, right? This is what we want to arrive at. This is the total that we are trying to achieve, right? And this will require a certain amount of planning, because if you have to get 431 marks, this has to come from 4 papers. And there are other factors also out here, because being an optional, which is being an optional, which is difficult to score. There are certain options, I don't want to name the optionals because again some of you may have those optionals. There are certain optionals which don't cross a certain threshold, right? The peak score is at 260, 270. And then you have optionals like anthropology which can go up to 320. You have mathematics which can cross 300. You have pol science which sometimes crosses 300. So if you are not in an optional which does not have a significant potential of doing this, you have to maximize this. I'm talking about top 100 scores, right? I'm not talking about to clear this examination, because when you aim for the stars, you will land up at the moon. At least you will land up at the moon, right? So essay is something that has scores have been very erratic in the last year. Interviews another 180. So to achieve this, maybe some places you will get more, some places you will get less, but cumulatively you will have to arrive at a total which will get you into a particular position, right? Now, so GS has 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if you look at the highest scores here, 140 has been the highest score. Here it is 108, here it is 130, here it is 130. Your score in any paper should not be below 115 or 20 marks than the highest score, right? So you have to have at least 110 marks out here, you have to have 110 marks out here, you have to have 90 marks out here, you have to have 120 marks out here, right? So this will put you somewhere around what, 330, 420. Still you are not at 430, right? So you have to have a composition of this. Here also for the respective subjects you have to identify, here also, right? So once we define the marks, we have to achieve these three things with respect to the topics that is being covered, right? Now, PYQs we discussed. Notes, why are notes important? Why are notes important? Because if you ask me what are the common characteristics of people who clear this examination, we constantly get this question. People come and ask, so what do you see? What do you see is common among all these candidates who are clearing this examination? And we feel the most important factor that we see among people who clear this examination is that they have notes which is concise, which is fortified, which is updated or relevant, and more than anything it is revisable, right? These factors have to be taken into consideration. Now, when we talk about notes, we have 4 different types of notes majorly happening. You have long notes, or you have running notes, you have short notes, you have value addition notes, and you have specific notes, right? Most people have long notes, especially students who have completed foundation courses. You have long notes. I am a product of a foundation course, and I had 4 binded 200 pages notebooks of polity. Was it good? Yes, it was really good. But was it revisable? How many times did I read it? Maybe not more than 2 times, right? How much do you remember when you read something 2 times? And you will always notice that most toppers have good notes, and you will have all these Telegram groups which are sharing all these notes, and a topper is product of their notes, right? They have achieved what they have achieved because they have concise, fortified, revisable and updated notes, and this helps them revise what they have to do multiple number of times, right? So the long notes are important to understand concepts, to develop clarity on what is expected out of this examination, but it's not very revisable. Short notes is what is a concept, it's a concept where your important concepts are concised into 100 pages, 200 pages. Your entire polity short notes will be not more than 200 pages or 200 sides, around 150 pages, right? Your entire value addition notes of polity will be not more than 10 to 15 pages, right? And then there are specific notes. I'll come back to specific notes. The thing about short notes is that you should be able to revise it at least 10 to 15 times. The thing about value addition notes is that you should be able to read it at least 100, 200, 300 times before the actual examination. This gives your argument or your concept, and this gives you substantiation. Now, the trend that we are seeing in answer writing is that you have to have arguments which is relevant to the demand of the question, and you have to substantiate these arguments in such a way that it enriches the evaluator's understanding of what you are trying to say. We are expecting that students will write at least 50% of their arguments with substantiation. The nature of substantiation would change from paper 1 to paper 2, between society to geography, between IR to polity, but you have to have some kind of specific substantiation which will enrich your argument. Now coming back to scores, like if I had mentioned that the average score of GS in top 100 ranks is very high, that would have a different impact. And when I tell you the average score of GS in top 100 is 431 marks, that has a different impact. This is substantiation. This is the value addition which enriches the argument, right? Now you have to have value addition notes and you have to have specific notes. What are specific notes? Specific notes are notes which are necessarily a collection of a specific thing, right? Just a collection of maps, just a collection of timelines, just a collection of diagrams, right? So these are types of value addition notes which you can revise multiple number of times. You may have noticed many toppers' copies and looked at the amazing maps, the amazing diagrams, the amazing timelines that you see in their answers. Don't be surprised, it is a reflection of their notes. It is not something that they are creating extempore in the examination hall. They are doing it because they have practiced it, they have revised it, they have internalized it, and then it reflects in their paper, right? So you have to have notes, and this is one of your most important job with respect to what you are expected to do between now and January. It's quite possible that you have some subjects for which you already have notes, but for some you don't have. So you identify those subject areas where you feel you need to have improved notes, and that is important in this process. Now the more number of years you are preparing in this examination, it is very likely that you are writing irrelevant stuff. You are writing things which you have learned in the past, and you will find students who are preparing now and they are able to score much better than what you are able to score, because they are writing updated content. They are writing things which is happening around them right now. The evaluator who checks their copy gets a feeling that this is aligned to what is happening around them. They are updated, right? So even if you are a senior aspirant who has been preparing for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, you have to have your notes updated. Otherwise you will not write relevant content. Otherwise you will write what you know rather than what has been asked, and that's a big difference, and that will be a variation in scores from 350 to 425, right? All it takes is 1 mark variation, right? So we need to have notes which is short notes, value addition notes, and we need to have specific notes. Now how do you judge a note? A note is judged on the revisability of it, right? So it has to be concise, it has to be fortified. What is fortified? Fortified means you have the relevant examples, you have the relevant case studies, you have the relevant arguments, data points, you have the relevant judgments, constitutional articles, you have the relevant value addition that is required. It has to be fortified so that your answers are eventually fortified, right? Now you need to have updated and relevant content, like I have said. Revisable because when you are let's imagine you are getting into the examination hall on the day of prelims or on the day of mains. You should be able to carry a book which you can skim through just before getting into the hall, because that's going to matter, right? It's going to matter because you will remember and you will put what you are expected to do into the papers, right? So it has to be revisable in nature. So notes is one important aspect. Then we talked about answer writing, right? So in this particular phase, we are also expecting you to develop a competence in answer writing. Now the thing about answer writing now is that everyone is doing it, but is everyone doing it, right? When I am saying this, what I am trying to say is that what you write, how much you write, how do you get what you are written reviewed, all these aspects are important. Writing has become a ritual now where everyone is writing a certain amount of content, and it is not differentiating them many a times because they are not writing in the right format, they are not writing the right quality of questions, or they are not writing in the right frequency. They are not emulating what UPSC is expecting out of them, right? Most people will say that I have done daily answer writing practice, I have written 1 answer a day, I have written 1 answer every week, but eventually when it comes to mains and when you look at their paper, it's nowhere near to what is expected. If you want to know what is expected out of a student, look at the toppers' copies, look at the top 10, top 50, top 100 ranks, and look at the kind of answers that they are writing. Don't judge them on the basis of 1 answer, you have to judge them on the basis of their ability to write 20 questions in 3 hours and 4 papers in 2 days back to back. That's a completely different exercise. When people write 1 answer a day, you are not emulating or you are not preparing for UPSC examination. You are probably preparing for a sprint and you are going for a long marathon. You are not able to succeed in this particular case, right? So answer writing has to be in the right format, right? Answer writing has to be done with the right questions, right? When I'm talking about write questions, I see all these daily initiatives where emphasis is on generating a question from a specific editorial or article that has come on the day. But UPSC rarely tends to ask narrow specific question. Most of the time their questions are broader in nature. They are looking at larger patterns, they are looking at larger issues. They are looking at contemporary issues, not current issues, right? There's a difference, right? Things which are constantly in the news, right? Write format, write frequency, right? So for, I think PYQ is my best or most preferred choice with respect to answer writing. I would prefer you to write, as I mentioned earlier, last 5 years of GS1 and GS4 and last 3 years of paper 2 and paper 3. And this will be the right format, this will be the right questions. And frequency, you should at least target a half paper every week, right? In fact, every week, one day should be a test day, right? Where you are preparing for both optional, GS, and at least every alternate week you should be writing a essay, right? The thing about essay is that everybody feels they can do it, but they wait for the last moment. They start writing essays only after prelims happens, and then they don't have time to implement any suggestions, or they don't have time to improve. So PYQs, you should be writing at least half papers or full papers, because when you write, or minimally you should have a 8 question 1 hour, right? This should be the format. And you should have a test day where you're writing optional GS and essay answers, right? Answer writing, we can have an entirely different conversation about answer writing, but answer writing is important because this is how you are being tested, your ability to express. Now, what has also happened is that the average quality of an answer has significantly improved. Now, when I'm saying significantly improved, if you go back and look at 2016, 17, 18, 19, the kind of toppers copies, and you see the kind of toppers copies now, you will see that the current answers are much more richer and value added than earlier. I have counted 150 or more value addition in papers of toppers. That means for every argument they have given 50% or more substantiation. For every argument they have inferred a demand which has not been directly asked, and then they have enriched it. Unless you are able to match that competition, you will not be able to crack it. I already talked about the mark composition that you have to achieve and what you need to get there. Now, the problem with the average quality of answer improving is that you will not be able to get away with a rank with average quality answers, right? And if you look at the syllabus also that is coming these days, you can broadly classify the syllabus into static, you can classify into predictable dynamic, regular dynamic topics, you can talk about themes which are recurring, and then you can talk about bluff or difficult questions, right? Static questions are based on theoretical aspects. This is most likely to come in ethics, it's most likely to come in history, it's most likely to come in certain parts of polity, right? This may be around 20% of your syllabus. This is the predictable dynamic areas where the questions are dynamic questions, but which is interlinked with the syllabus theme keyword. Now, you will find this in paper 1 geography, environmental geography, where there is a high probability that you will get a question on Himalayan ecosystem and climate change. You are very likely to get a question on population, you are likely to get a question on urbanization, you are likely to get a question on parliament, panchayat, RPA, you have very recurring questions on asymmetric federalisms, right? So, these themes are recurring in nature. So, there are predictable dynamic areas and then there are unpredictable dynamic area. Here you can study urbanization and the related aspects to it. You can prepare on cyber security and the related aspects to it. Dynamic current affairs is where you have to cover a multiple set of things, you have to follow what is happening in news, and then the questions will come around this. This is largely happening in economy, in polity, such kind of subjects, right? Then you have themes which are recurring. This is the predictable current affairs, and then there are bluffs, world history, post-independence. You have questions in science and tech which are difficult to answer, right? So, you will have a different strategy of writing, you will have a different strategy of note making for these things. We can discuss that later, right? So, you have answer writing, you have note making, and you have extensive PYQ practice which is important for this examination. Now, many people ask me what is the composition of a day, right? I expect a student will study for 9 hours. Students who are just studying, right? Not someone who is working and managing preparation, but someone who is exclusively preparing. I expect them to study 9 hours and preferably 3 slots of 3 hours, right? At this point of time. Let's say you are 1 month before prelims or 1 month before mains, I'll expect you to put in 12 or more hours of preparation. But at this point of time, when you're looking for 2024, I will be happy if you are able to give 9 hours of your preparation time, and this is more than sufficient, right? Now, I will expect that for GS, you will give 4.5 hours, right? 4 to 4.5 hours, right? For current affairs, I'll expect you to give 1 to 1.5 hours. And for optional, I'll expect you to give 3.5 hours, right? Now, obviously, there are certain optionals which will take more time, certain optionals which will take more intensity of preparation, more practice. Obviously, that will vary. And such optionals are also more likely to score higher also. I don't mind you investing 4 hours on or 5 hours on mathematics, because there's a probability that you will cross 300 and you will offset whatever loss you are making in GS. We talked about the mark composition that we are trying to achieve. So, you will be able to balance that out there, right? So, this is what is happening on 6 days of a week, and 1 day is my test day, right? This is also a day where I will write 2 tests and then I'll take rest of the day break, right? Because most of the time when you write 1 test, you don't have the energy to prepare further, right? So, you will have to go for a test day kind of approach. Now, we'll talk about other aspects of the preparation. We talked about the timeline, we talked about the mark composition, you talked about I think I wanted to include something. There are certain questions that you should ask yourself when you are preparing for this examination, or when you are at this stage of the examination where you have appeared for prelims, you did not qualify, where you have appeared for more than 1 prelims, you have not qualified, you appeared for last year's mains, but you did not qualify this prelims. The most important question is, what did I do from last prelims to now? What have I done in the last 75 days? That's very important, because that will decide how you will move from here. Because we all lose consistency, we all make mistakes, we all make it difficult for ourselves. But it's important to understand what is the problem, because once you understand what is the problem, what you have done so far, you can improve it. Like they say, what gets measured gets improved, right? Second most important question, what if I had cleared prelims this year? If I had cleared prelims this year, would I have been able to crack mains? Honestly, you ask yourself, this is no challenge between yourselves, right? It is a question that you have to ask yourself. If I don't clear prelims this year, what would have happened to me? If I had cleared prelims this year, what would have happened to me, right? Now, you know what you are thinking. The third most important question is that next year when I am clearing prelims, what level of preparedness should I have? What should be the notes that should I have? How many answers should I have written by then? How many revisions should I have achieved by then? What all should I have checklisted by then? Third important question. Fourth important question, imagine you are sitting on June 1st, 2024, you are calculating the cutoff, you are calculating your key with respect to what you have done in prelims, you are looking at different institutions' key, you are looking at next IAS, you are looking at other keys, and then you realize that you are below the cutoff, right? You are below the expected range. What changes will you make today that you will have a different outcome tomorrow at that point of time? What will you do differently today, right? That's something that you have to ask, because this examination is not easy. It's extremely competitive. If you can't put in the hours, if you can't put in the efforts, you can probably try something else, because we don't see people who are half-hearted into preparation or people who are trying to do multiple things clearing this examination. It has to have super focus, and unfortunately focus has become a very difficult thing for all of us, right? We all are doom scrolling, we all are hyper, anxious, we all are moving from one thing to another thing. And someone very nicely or interestingly said that focus is a superpower that we have now. If someone can focus, that's a superpower, right? So, we need to understand what exactly we have to do in this particular given point of time, right? Now, other questions that you should ask yourself is that, why do some people consistently clear prelims? Why do some people consistently clear mains, right? Is it because they have some special superpower? Not necessarily. I was fortunate to interact with one of the top 100, top 10 rank holder, top 10 rank holder, and one of the things that she said that yes, the CS paper is difficult, but if I sit down to crack this paper, I'll crack it. The attitude is different, the mindset is different, and these are the people who clear this examination, right? And you will notice that only 60-70% of the questions will be doable, 20-30% of the questions will always be difficult, and we judge ourselves on the basis of the things that we could not do, even in preparation, even in the examination, even a paper, even a teacher. You judge a teacher on the basis of what did not come, you did not talk about what came, right? So we have to identify what are the strategies that is working for people, right? And I think above all, how do I give my best attempt, right? Tomorrow when I am writing prelims, or tomorrow when I am writing mains, or tomorrow when I am appearing for interview, what should I do today that I feel that I have given my best attempt possible for this examination, right? So these are some of the questions that we should consider while moving on. And what are some of the mistakes that people make? I think that is also an important conversation to have. Procrastination is very common. When I say procrastination, you postpone, you delay, you put away what things have to be done. You always think that you have more time. You always think you have more time, but you never have enough time, right? You are constantly researching. You are always jumping from one course to the next course, one website to the next website. In fact, I was recently telling someone that it's the most difficult time to be a student. It's the most difficult time to be preparing, because the number of things that you're distracted by is humongous, right? Be it in terms of entertainment, be it in terms of anything that you're doing, be in terms of strategies to prepare, be it in terms of material to refer, be it in terms of tests to write. You have so many things to do, to the extent that I think there will be a certain amount of decision fatigue that comes in when you are preparing for this examination. When we were preparing, it was not this difficult because there were less proliferation of Telegram, there was less proliferation of YouTube channels, there were less toppers who were active, who were giving strategies. I'm not saying that their strategies are wrong or the things that they are saying is not good enough. I'm just saying that as a student, you are finding it difficult to decide and stick on to one particular strategy. You start with something, you do 2 weeks of something, then you go 2 weeks something else, you start with one subject, you don't finish that, you go to the next subject. You're constantly hyper strategizing, like I think there should be a word, hyper strategizing. You're just planning and planning and planning, and there is no implementation happening. Unless you are getting on the ground, getting your hands dirty, unless you fold your sleeves and get the things done, you are just strategizing from one test to the strategizing from one day to the next day, right? So procrastination is happening. You are over exerting yourself. You're trying to do more things than you can do, right? You have you have developed a concept where you want to do 4 things in a day. You target 15 hours of preparation in a day. You have to understand in the long run, you have to do what is realistic, what is practical, and what is something that you can do the next day and the next day and the next day, right? So don't overexert yourself, and this is something that we are seeing, and then people burn out. You may have good efficient 1 week or hyper efficient 2 weeks, but then you burn out and you go blank for another month, right? So developing over expertise is another thing that we are seeing, that rather than having a holistic understanding of the syllabus, you concentrate on providing emphasis on certain parts of the syllabus. You make notes which are extremely complex, which is never implementable into your answers. Your notes are only as good as how much of that you can replicate into your answers. If your notes are not reflected in your answers, your notes are not good, or whatever you're doing is not good enough, right? Other things that we are noticing is non-completion. You start with one, you don't move. You go GS 1, 2, 3, 4, you have no competence on anything. You have never have any closure on any part of it. You are not accountable, right? Usually people who have completed foundations and you are sitting at home and preparing, you are not accountable to anyone, right? You don't have peer, you don't have elders, you don't have seniors, you don't have mentors. And this also creates a situation where you don't have anyone holding you accountable or holding you to certain targets and every day. In the end, motivation will only take you so far. You need strategy, you need planning, and you need minute daily targets which will bring you closer to the goal, right? So non-completion, lack of accountability. You over delve on the past, right? I think we all do that in some form or the other in some aspect of our life. And an aspirant or a senior aspirant is someone who is constantly looking at why it did not work for me last time. What did I do last time and why it did not work? You're constantly undermining yourself, you're constantly doubting yourself, and you're constantly looking at all the wrong things that you have done. It's a new day, it's a new opportunity, and it's something that you have to deliver and something that you have to work hard and you have to break it up, right? You look at your prelim score, you look at the GS CSAT score. You may have cleared GS, you did not clear CSAT. You're stuck with why you did not clear CSAT. You're constantly thinking about that and you're not moving forward. You're looking at other scores, you're looking at and to make things worse, you have a lot of Telegram groups and you have a lot of YouTube channels which is constantly discussing on the past. It's not discussing about the strategies that you have to follow at this point of time, right? And we see this also that you have a lot of self-doubt. An average student who comes for CSE preparation has been a topper in his school, in his college, in JE, in any entrance examination. You have been peak performers in academic circles, like you have been the best in your class, you have been the best among your family, and then all of a sudden you fail prelims and then you lose it, like you have never been hit so hard, right? You have never been challenged, right? And then you start self-doubting yourself and then you start internalizing that self-doubt, and once you internalize that self-doubt, it is gonna pull you down, right? So I think I am not criticizing or ridiculing anyone. I'm just pointing out the kind of challenges that people are going through, and you may be going through some of this, all of this, or a combination of this, and you have to understand that you are not the only person who is going through, but the people who are able to pull their socks up and people who are able to strategize and people who are able to implement micro targets and move forward are the ones who clear. When we are having this conversation next year, we should be in a much better place. When you are having this conversation next month, you should be in a better place, right? You should be moving forward. If you're delving on your past, if you're self-doubting yourself, if you're constantly procrastinating, if you're constantly strategizing only, you're not going to clear this examination, right? Next year when you give prelims, you should tell yourself that I gave my best attempt possible. I have worked as hard as I can. I've made the best notes I have possible. If it's not happening, it's at least clear that maybe something else is meant for you in this, right? It's not that UPSC is the only thing that you can achieve in life, or it is the only career that you can pursue, but as long as you're preparing for this examination, you have to give your best attempt. As someone who has prepared for this examination, I'll tell you that when you don't give your best effort, you will be constantly reminded every year the results come that I should have worked harder, I should have studied some more, I should have done something about it, right? And it will take you years to get out of that guilt. But if you give your best and if you give your hardest work, someone very interestingly said that when you look back 5 years from now or 10 years from now, you should be able to tell yourself that between June 2023 and September 2024 was when I worked hardest in my life. This is when I put the maximum effort, and you always aspire to put that kind of an effort in everything else in your life, right? So this is some of the things that we are looking at now. So the sequence of subjects, I think we are starting in August and we are moving till December, right? There are two combinations of subjects that we can pursue. One is where we move from prelims mains overlapping topic and then we move to mains exclusive topics, or vice versa, right? You start with mains exclusive topics and then you move to prelims mains overlapping topics. I think both has its merits and demerits, right? When I am talking about prelims mains overlapping topics, I am talking about polity, I am talking about economy, geography, history, all these subjects. When I am talking about mains exclusive, ethics, society, IR, security, all these topics, right? This is something that you can do. You can either follow in this sequence or this sequence. Like I mentioned, every month 250 or 300 marks worth syllabus would be completed. Every week 75 marks worth syllabus would be completed. Every day we should have 9 hours of preparation. Every week we should have a test day, right? I'll also put two other important numbers, right? 1000, if you can write it somewhere, write it somewhere. You should have written 1000 answers before you appear for the mains next year. Before you write the first answer in mains, you should have written 1000 answers. You will have 3 years of GS 2 and 3, that's 240 questions. That's 16 to 3, 40 into 3, 120 questions. You have 5 years of GS 1 and 4, right? 20 into 5, 100, right? 40 into 5, 200, sorry. You have to have, this itself will add 320 questions to you, right? And you can solve test series questions, you can solve this year's questions. You should have written 1,000 answers. You should remember at least 500 factual value additions across GS 1, 2, 3, 4, which will enrich your answers, right? This is something important. These are important numbers: 1,000 answers, 500 data points, 250 to 300 marks per month, 9 hours per day, 75 hours per week, 75 marks per week, 1 test per day, right? See, when you sit for 9, you get 7.5. I'm not expecting you to have 100% efficiency. It's not about one day, it's about what you do consistently, day after day, day after day, day after day. That's what will form your attempt, right? Now, you are, what do you call, what else do we have to talk about? I think, let me take some questions. Is there something else that I have missed, right? Someone asked that, you said only 20% are static questions, so why do not give more time on dynamic parts? When I'm saying static questions, sometimes what happens is that, a static inspired by dynamic, a dynamic inspiring static. UPSC has a tendency to ask static question on things which is in news, right? They have a tendency to ask dynamic questions on topics which is in syllabus, right? They have a tendency to ask positive questions on things which we perceive negative. They have a tendency to ask questions from the past. Last year we had a student who came back and told us that, you asked questions from last year, and when UPSC paper came, there were questions from 5 years ago, right? So it's important to understand that, the patterns will not be constant. You are people who have appeared for CSAT and GS, and you would have seen the variation in the way papers work, right? Somebody out here has talked about AIM program, right? Yes. So that is something interesting that we are doing, right? So I'll briefly explain the AIM program. I'm very excited about this because we have completed 3 subjects in the batch 1, right? I'll tell you how this program works and how this will help you prepare, and why it would be a good choice for someone who has not yet started their preparation. First and foremost, this is not for anyone who has starting their preparation. This is not a replacement for a foundation program. This is for people who have completed their foundation program, or they have done self-study and completed the syllabus. AIM is an advanced integrated mentorship program starting from August to September 2024. We already have a first batch running. In fact, we had a prize distribution ceremony for all the people who completed the polity workbook 2 days back. And it was very exciting to see that there were 200 people sitting in a classroom, and there were 80 students who completed these assignments, right? And these are people who vouch that, they have done more work in the last 1 month or 2 months than they have done in the entire year, right? These are people who are substantially more confident about their preparedness, their subject knowledge, about their ability to tackle questions compared to what they have done before. So I have started with this usage that, pre-AIM, post-AIM. What were you doing before AIM? What are you doing with AIM, right? So I'll briefly explain how this program works, right? AIM, I'll explain certain keywords, right? We have assignments, we have assessment tests, we have revision tests, we have MCQ or preliminary tests. These are some of the important words that you will come across. Now, in the AIM program, from August to November, we are covering prelims, mains, overlapping topics, right? Polity, economy, geography, history, etc. From November to January, we are covering mains exclusive topics, right? Here we have society, ethics, IR, security, etc. From January to, let's say, 20th to February 10th, we are covering prelims intensive topics. This is art and culture, environment, and science and tech, right? So what do we do for a particular subject? Now we have polity as a subject, right? Now we have in AIM batch 2, we have dedicated 4 weeks for polity, right? Now, what do we do in 4 weeks, right? In 4 weeks, I'll show you what we do in a week, right? I love timelines. I love to see timelines and answers. So I keep doing this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Every day from Monday to Saturday, you have a daily target. You will have a workbook which will have a set of questions, and every day there is a micro syllabus target, and there are 5 or 6 open-ended questions which are being asked to you, which you have to research from your standard books, which you have to research from your existing notes, which you have to research from the internet and update, right? So one day you are expected to research and write 5 to 6 questions. This will form 10 to 12 pages of notes, right? And when I'm saying question, it is not answer writing, it is notes. It is not necessarily in the IBC format, that means intro, body, conclusion format. It is in a note making format, right? You have to write about the theme, you have to write about the introductions, value additions, conclusions, etc., right? So you have 5, 6 questions which will be open-ended, which will be asked to you on a daily basis. You have to refer from the standard sources and bring into the book, right? These assignments will be reviewed, not evaluated, by the mentor, right? They will take a look at it and they will suggest what more has to be done. For every question, there is a discussion video. For every question, there is a solution. And based on whatever you are covering from Monday to Saturday, on Sunday, there is a prelims test and there is a mains test. This is 10 questions and this is 50 questions, right? Prelims test is only when it is prelims oriented topics are there. When the prelims oriented topics are going and we are moving to mains oriented topic, we will replace this with a CSAT test. So we will start solving CSAT tests from November itself, right? Because that's one challenging area that most students face at this point of time, that they are not prepared for CSAT. We will have CSAT testing starting from November, right? So pre-mains, 50 questions of prelims will have 10 questions of current affairs of the week. If there is a current oriented topic, we will have current affairs out here also. Every Saturday, we will have a weekly current affairs class, right? When we complete 4 weeks of polity, you would have covered 200 themes from polity. We have completed batch 1, and people who are joining batch 2 will also complete polity by the time mains happens, closer to the mains, right? And we will see how many questions are repeated or directly or indirectly from this. When you are covering 200 themes from polity, you will develop a certain confidence which will tell you that, you know, I can't do more than this, right? One, right? And you will develop inter-topic competence. You will develop what do you call value addition that you can use in multiple areas, and you will develop a certain confidence with respect to the subject, right? So this is what happens in polity. Like this, every week will go on, and by January, you will cover almost 1,200 themes. Right? This is from every syllabus area. We will not leave any syllabus area untouched. We will cover polity, economy, geography, history, ethics, everything will be covered, and everything will be covered from a micro perspective, right? Wherever there is a shortage of value addition, we will substantiate you with value addition, right? Now, there are no good collection of maps for geography, we will give you a map collection. There is not good short notes for social justice, we will give you a good short note for social justice. We have prepared 400, 500 pages of value addition for this program, specifically for this program. We have developed workbooks for all the subjects. We have developed recorded videos for all the subjects, all the questions. We have developed solutions for all the questions. And every week there is a test. The questions in the assignments are open-ended. It's very very easy to write. But the questions which is happening on a weekly basis is difficult. It is UPSC standard questions. And we can very confidently see substantial improvement in the way people are writing answers from the first revision assignment test to the last assignment test. We are having students who are happy that they have a notes in their hand. Next year when they are clearing prelims, they will be able to revise this. If these students clear prelims, and the way we are preparing, we will make them clear prelims. We will work as hard as possible to clear prelims. We are seeing a substantial conversion of these students into ranks or into interview calls, at least, right? Because there is no shortage of effort out here, right? From January onwards, from February onwards, we will be moving to a prelims mode. here what we have done is that we have again a timeline. Monday there is a test, Tuesday there is a break, Wednesday there is a test, Thursday there is a break, Friday there is a test, Saturday there is a break, Sunday there is a full test of GS from whatever is covered in this timeline and a full test of CSAT, right. So, from February to May you will be engaging in extensive test solving. In the first phase we will also have one essay every month, right. That is one topic, not two topics, right. All the GS and essay part will be helped by the mentors, and post prelims here also you will have current affairs for prelims, which is a very advanced current affairs program of prelims by our next IAS senior faculties. All the value addition sessions, all the video content is being provided in online mode. So, there is no necessity to come into the classroom and sit and attend classes. You will invest 5 hours of time every day sitting at home or wherever you are, making notes and reviewing it by mentors, and every week you will end up writing a test. And if you follow this on a daily basis, I can promise you from 1 month from now or 2 months from now, you will feel much better prepared for this examination, not because you are part of AIM or you are part of a program from Next IAS, because you are consistently putting in effort. We are a platform which is enabling you to prepare for this examination, right. So, current affairs for prelims, right. Now, post prelims we have mains advanced course, which is taken by all the senior faculties. We have essay guidance program, which is taken by the senior faculties. We have ethics enhancer program, which is taken by the senior faculties, right. And we have 8 GS full length tests. We have 5 essay tests post prelims, right. So, as a program, AIM will enable you to prepare for your GS, for your essay. You will have to take care of your optional, that is on your own, and we are expecting you to put 5 to 6 hours every day for AIM. And if you are able to consistently do this, I can assure you, you will see substantial improvement in the way you are preparing, substantial improvement in quantifiable targets that you are achieving, right. And this will bring you closer to the examination. And above all, we can very much say that this will be the best attempt that you can give. Even if you are able to achieve 80% of the target that we are expecting you to achieve, it will be the best attempt that you can give, right. Because without AIM, most people are distracted, most people are hyper strategizing, most people are procrastinating, they are constantly overthinking. With AIM, you have a daily target, you have a daily weekly exam, you have revision tests, you have mentors who will handhold you and support you, you have current affairs which is being covered, you have essays being written. It's as comprehensive as it gets. I don't think there's anything else that is as comprehensive as this. But the most challenging aspect of this is that it's extremely difficult. I'll warn you that if you're joining for AIM, it will be difficult to consistently work 5 hours a day. But if you can pull yourself and do this work, trust me, this is going to be a best attempt that you can think of, right. So, this is the part where we'll explain about AIM program. The next batch is starting on 18th of August. The mentors will look at online assignments also. They will have Zoom meetings, you will have on call. We have an active ticketing system through which you can communicate with the mentors, right. And online student assignments will be reviewed. Current affairs, we will have current affairs as a part of prelims test, 10 questions every week. We will have a weekly current affairs class. We are expecting you to spend 1 hour of preparation on current affairs, and we will have current affairs for prelims, current affairs for mains. All these things are covered. Across the course duration, we are expecting you to touch 1500 themes, and I think that's what best of the toppers would be able to do, right. Anything else? Anything else I can help with? Any more questions? Anything that I can? I'm open for questions. I think if you have done half your syllabus, then if you have done half the syllabus, then you can probably have certain leverages and advantages compared to others. You will probably be able to invest substantially more time on optional. but you can still join the syllabus if you have done half the syllabus. If you have done half the syllabus from scratch, if you don't have any understanding of the remaining half, it will be difficult. But if you are looking at 2024, it will be one of the ways you can prepare, right? Is there so much lag in batch 2 compared to batch 1? Batch 1 we had Monday to Friday assignments, Saturday was a break. But since we are starting in August, we don't have the opportunity to give you a break on Saturday. So we always advise people who come for inquiry and who join AIM that take a break till 18th, because once this starts, you are busy till September 2024, right? See, what else? Anybody, anything else? Anything else? How to strategize for next year? I think this is like reading the whole book and asking who is the main protagonist in this book, right? Strategize by planning the time, breaking it into smaller parts. Strategize by breaking the tasks into achievable daily, weekly targets. We talked about what we have to do from August to December, August to January. We talked about daily targets, we talked about weekly targets, and from December or January you start for prelims. This is how we can go about. This is not a course. This is not a course for college-going beginners. College-going beginners can always use our first step program. You can always go for newspaper reading. You can always go for consuming a lot of current-oriented content. You can try looking at the prelims question papers and understand what kind of content is expected out of you. You can cover NCERT books. These are some of the things that college-going students can do. You can find all the details about the program on the website, right? The brochure is also available on the website. We will paste a link of the course on the chat box, right? If you are in a foundation program, don't join AIM because you are already having a hectic schedule of attending optional classes and GS classes. It will not be practical to attend AIM program along with that, right? Book will consist of PYQ or some expected questions or related to current affairs as well. Book will consist of PYQs, it will consist of open-ended questions, it will consist of current-oriented question wherever it is relevant for the syllabus, right? The difference between online and offline: in offline you get to meet the mentors offline, you get to write the test offline, you get to access all our physical infrastructure. But in online, all these things will happen on an online mode, right? Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for watching the whole session, right? I hope it has been some help to you, right? And you can reach out to us if you have any doubts, any way we can help you. Thank you so much.